But as far as a lot of the backlash that he's, been receiving, because I heard about it and I was like, let me see for myself. So I went on Twitter and I went digging around, and then I actually saw pretty much like the N-word compilation of him using the word for like 2 minutes straight. And the amount of times of him using the word like so comfortably, every bit of backlash that he's getting right now is well deserved.
Oh, man, look, and it's one of those days, like a lot of people, rightfully so, have been talking to him, and it hasn't really just been the racism. It's been a lot of things that he's been saying on his podcast. But yeah, I first was made aware of the fact that he said the N-word over 30 times on his podcast. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was over 50 times over the span of his podcast since he moved to Spotify. Wow. And my thing is this: I was talking to somebody the other day about this. It's like, why do people let him get away with it? I'm not talking about the people that listen to it, but the guests, especially black guests. Why do they let this man get away with it? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's mind blowing that, when you have a following, you have a fan base and followers, that people give you passes because of this stuff. Like, this is not the first time he said it. This is not the second time. This is not the third time. This is a span over 50 times he used the N-word. He's made derogatory comments about, minorities, black people, and nobody's said a word until now. Do you think that we, especially the black community, should hold him more accountable, and that we need to speak up more about the fact that we keep letting this happen?
Well, from what I've been seeing, I've seen, a wide range of reactions, or at least not really a wide range. I've pretty much heard he's racist, and I've pretty much heard he's not racist. And the reasoning behind certain black people, these aren't white people who are saying that I've seen, is black people saying that. They're saying, oh, well, you don't know the context. I don't care about the context. It's a word that you shouldn't use. If I was sitting there using the C word on, about white people, when I'm referring to white people, I shouldn't be surprised at the fact that they get offended. Now, granted, I don't know how long ago these episodes were. Now, judging by, the quality of some of the videos that I saw, they're from a while ago, but to me, it doesn't really matter. Now, there are some black people that'll say, oh, well, black people shouldn't, use the GA, you know what I'm saying? And to me, it's just like, look, the reason why you have certain white people that feel a certain type of way about it is because it's the one thing in the dictionary that they can't use publicly, at least. So they can only use it in the privacy of their own home or with like-minded individuals. They can't really say it, around, black people. And I feel like the black people that Joe Rogan has said it around, which I haven't seen him say it in the presence of a black person, that black person is looking at it like, oh, he's not racist. Oh, I get what he's saying. But to me, it's like, nah, man, if somebody were to say that around me, that just tells me the type of person that you are and how you yourself view me. It's racist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And let me mention something. The former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang came out and was defending Joe Rogan because he was on his podcast February 2019, and he was talking about how this was his excuse of why he didn't think Joe Rogan was racist. He said because Joe Rogan works and supports black people all the time, that he's not racist for using the word.
Support black people how?
Exactly. And that's the thing, that's justifying the fact that, he's using this word without a care in the world. Let's be real here. This is not 1960. This ain't 1980. Yep. It's 2021, 2022. We know the fact that if you're not a black person, you're not supposed to say the N-word. There's no ifs, ands, whats, or buts about it. And this is what I mean about holding people accountable. I was talking to a guy the other day about this, when it's like he was talking about how a lot of people in LA feel comfortable, especially white people and different ethnicities and backgrounds, love saying the N-word to black people without a care in the world. And it's like, oh yeah, my black friend lets me say it. It's like, well, even if they do let you say, that don't give you the right to just be going to every black person you see and calling them the N-word.
Right. Because you know exactly what it means. Like this is the thing. When you're using the GR, you know its history and you know exactly what it means. So it's like when you go repeating that, you have to understand the risks that come with that. I feel like he got away with it for so long because there's a difference between this era today and 10 years ago, where 10 years ago you can go on YouTube, you can have a podcast, and you can say a whole bunch of wild shit. You can use, the F word that refers to gay people, you know what I'm saying? And nobody would probably say anything, but you can't say that now. Exactly. And we both know that, as you become a public figure, the bigger you are, the more that you sacrifice the voice that you have or your true opinion. So you can speak publicly, but 9 times out of 10, your real thoughts and opinions has to go through several different filters before it actually gets out to the public, if you get what I'm saying. This is why you don't see a lot of, you don't see Jay-Z, Beyonce, Will Smith, Eddie Murphy, and different, those top tier celebrities really speaking out about sensitive subjects.
Right. But you know what, though? I will praise people like rockstar Neil Young and a lot of Black artists now coming out and pulling their music from Spotify, because, this is their way of taking a stand. And, Neil Young has been outspoken ever since, even before the racism controversy started. It was, the false information about COVID and stuff like that. He's come out and he's expressed the fact that he feels like the CEO and the head of the table of Spotify aren't doing anything, to rectify the situation. They letting him go on because, they paid him $100 million to have his podcast. Now,
wow,
I definitely support the fact that artists are actually doing something about this, because time and time again, like I always say, if you want something to change or you want to take a stand, you can't just tweet and you can't just, text people and then, let the conversation die. You have to do something drastic. So I definitely see and I definitely support a lot of these artists who have their music on these platforms, pulling it and making a stand. Like, you know what? Until you fix the situation, we're not gonna have our music on your platform. Do you think more artists should be doing that, or do you think there's other things people can do to help, make Spotify accountable for allowing this kind of behavior to continue?
I heard a quote today, and it's pretty much that you're not racist until you get caught. It's like you won't really know how somebody really feels until they get, like they get outed. If someone sheds light on like their true feelings, or if they just get caught saying something that they shouldn't have been saying. I've been saying for years that, people, like white kids in social studies class, growing up in elementary school, middle school, and high school, when we had the units on slavery and those times, I always figured, there had to have been at least 1 or 2 white kids in there that were like, yo, man, that was pretty cool. I wish we can go back to that. You know what I'm saying? Now, times are very similar. It rhymes, even though it might not be, well, in some cases, it is just as extreme. It's just a lot more covert. These artists that you're talking about, like, let's say like Neil Young, right? I get it. Like, if you're a regular person, all you can really do is talk about it and continue the conversation. If you're somebody that you have a voice that, hundreds of thousands, millions of people listen to, and you have the means to actually impact and influence change, then I say do it. At the same time, I feel like Neil Young should have been doing stuff, on like along these lines, if you get what I'm saying. I feel like people shouldn't really only just be attacking, Spotify, when I'm pretty sure there are other platforms out there that are doing and saying harmful shit, but you don't ever say anything about them. But when it comes to Joe Rogan, it's like now you want to come out and say stuff. I personally just question the intention behind it, because you know how a lot of times it's easy to join the angry mob, because right now Joe Rogan got an angry mob, after him. And it's like, it's easy to just come out and say, oh, everybody, Spotify employees should quit their jobs and all this other types of stuff. But what statement are you really making? Like, why are you saying that? That's just a question that I would have for Neil Young and any artist. So what makes you say that? And if it's because you feel that the use of the N-word is wrong, or because you also have to understand too, that like you said earlier, it also stems from misinformation. So they were already trying to, go after Joe Rogan anyway. So is this because he is a racist, or is it because he was saying stuff about COVID that you just didn't agree with? So to me, I almost kind of take these, so-called artists and certain public figures coming out and saying, things about him or condemning him with a grain of salt.
Right. But you know what? This is the point I was making. And we've talked about this, on the heels of George Floyd and social and political unrest during the pandemic too. I think, like I said, it's not. I support Neil Young and a lot of these other people, officially now coming out, especially after the reports of him being racist and saying stuff like, I know one of the things that you sent me, one of the articles, Joe Rogan said on his podcast, was talking about seeing the Planet of the Apes in a good neighborhood. And this is a quote he said in his podcast, right? We walked into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door and there was no white people. You know,
Racist.
yeah, when you say
Racist
stuff
Rogan
like that,
Podcast.
I mean, do you think? Let me ask you a true question. Do you think he's actually racist, or do you think he just rambles and he talks without actually putting thought into what he says?
Joe Rogan is racist. Again, when you use all right, you know me, right? How would you assume I feel about white people if in my basic, in my firsthand vocabulary, like a lot of the words that I used, I were to use the word cracker to refer to white people, and you would just hear it in abundance. Like I'm just casually saying, like, oh yeah, that crack over there. Like, how would you think I feel about white people if I wasn't saying white boy or white guy or Caucasian man, but I was saying cracker? What would you think? What's the first word that would come to mind?
Racist.
Exactly. So if you have a guy that's sitting there and saying, nigger, you know what I'm saying, over and over and over and over again, and then the context in which he's using it is just mad nonchalant, like it's just coming out like he's just saying, dude, or something like that. He's just saying it, and the way he's saying it is just mad weird. And then it's driven home by the Planet of the Apes quote that you just mentioned. So it's like, now I really don't have to question whether or not this man is a racist, because read it again. Read his quote again.
Here's this quote. And then I got another one for people as well. So this is what he said about hoping to see Planet of the Apes in a good neighborhood. All right. We walked into the Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door and there was no white people.
So basically, because I actually kind of want to break down that quote, and I'm like pulling it up myself because I want to just. So he said, hold up, man. He said, on hoping to see Planet of the Apes in a good neighborhood. Like, first of all, what is that supposed to mean? We walked in to Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. So where is he at? Does he mean he's literally seeing the movie Planet of the Apes, or is he talking about being in a black neighborhood?
Exactly. And that's the
exactly. We walked in the door and there was no white people. That's like when Conor McGregor said when he in the buildup of him fighting Floyd back in 2017, he said that when he went to a boxing gym full of white people, he compared that to the scene in Rocky 3, where Rocky went to go train at the black gym, and then he said it was just a gym full of flying monkeys. How do you think these people feel? Like, just because they don't actually say it in public, that don't mean they don't be saying it behind closed doors. Again, you won't know somebody is racist until they get caught. Either they say something to you, or they say something by accident, slip in the tongue or something like that. Or they just be saying shit on their own platform, and then people got to go and backtrack and dig up what they've been saying.
Right.
Because again, I will say the only reason why a Kanye or people that Joe Rogan has had on his podcast, I feel like the only reason why they probably won't think that he's racist is because from a movie with Jeff Goldblum and Lawrence Fishburne that I like called Deep Cover. Once you become rich, in some cases, there's no black or white anymore. There's just rich people and poor people. There's the haves and the haves not. So Joe Rogan probably don't even look at Kanye West as black. He just look at him as another rich guy. So they put themselves in a separate category, than other people.
Right. And and this goes back to the old saying, Andrew Yang, after he retracted his statement because he was getting roasted on Twitter and other platforms so much, one of his big things was he didn't think Joe Rogan was racist because he has black friends. He works with black people. So, I think that's the ultimate old cliche term of, I'm not racist, I have black friends. That's not true. You know what I'm saying?
I would have voted for Obama a third freaking time. I saw Get Out. Get Out.
Like I said, it's one of those things. It's tricky because I don't know if Joe Rogan's inherently racist or he just uses, just
Man, he's
carefree
racist.
language or whatever.
He is racist. He told you he's racist. He said it already. He said it already. He just didn't think people would care, because I bet you if we really looked up like the statistics as far as the demographics of people that actually, subscribe to the Joe Rogan podcast, the lesser percentage of that, that demographic is Black. The majority of the people that listen to the Joe Rogan podcast are white people, are non-Blacks. I'm not saying that there aren't Black people that listen to Joe Rogan podcast. I'm not saying that, but I bet you that's probably like 15 to 20% tops. 15 to 20% tops out of, I don't know, X amount of millions of people.
Right.
Well, he told you already. So any Black person, if you're still listening to the Joe Rogan podcast after that, I mean, I don't know.
Let me hit you with another quote, especially one that you sent me, right? There's another quote from the Joe Rogan experience, right? So Joe Rogan had a guest who talked about how he had a Black dad and a white mom, right? And so this was Joe Rogan's response to him, right? Powerful combination genetic wise, right? You get the body of the Black man, and then you get the mind of the white man, altogether some strange combination. Black people have a different brain. When you say, when you say stuff like that, some people might say, oh, he was probably praising Black people. He was probably, trying to uplift him and support him. But when you say stuff like this, it really goes back to the whole fetishizing and undermining the Black man. Because what does the body of a Black man mean? You know what I'm saying? Yep. And I'm pretty sure he ain't talking about the skin color.
I'm talking about athletics. All Black people can do is play, sports and all. That's what he's talking about, man. Like he sound like one of the white people that attended the Get Out party where they were auctioning off, the Black people that they captured to perform the brain transplants and stuff, exploiting Black people for their physical attributes. This is a fact. So let's just get that set in stone right now. Joe Rogan is racist. Period.
Oh, let me put this out for people who's listening, because I know there's gonna be a lot of Joe Rogan supporters that might listen to it. I'm not this episode, this discussion, this controversy isn't about. For some people, it could just be pulling a plug on the whole podcast itself. Silencing Joe Rogan, which unfortunately could never happen because
that's not gonna happen.
Let's be realistic here, right? But I think like Neil Young said, he ever since he pulled his music, one of the biggest things he's been talking about is he's been encouraging Spotify employees and people that work for Spotify who feel strongly against them supporting Joe Rogan, not doing anything about it. And he continued to criticize the CEO of the company, right? And he talks about how Daniel Ek, who's one of the CEOs of Spotify, you know what? He's not going to do anything about Joe Rogan. Why? Because at the end of the day, the only goal that they have is business. It's about the numbers. I'm not mad at the CEO, only because it just puts him in an awkward position, because like you said, it's business. It's not personal with these guys. He's looking at it like, I just threw $100 million at this guy, to fulfill his contractual obligations to my platform. Now, because, this came out, now this puts me at, a situational disadvantage. I understand that. Should he get rid of Joe Rogan? Whatever. My thing is, people just need to understand that this man is racist. There's no denying it. None of that. If this has more so to do with COVID, quote unquote, misinformation, then that's a whole nother subject. But let's no longer debate his racial views or his viewpoints and attitudes and opinions towards Black people, because that has henceforth been debunked from his own words. It came straight from the horse's mouth. We're not making this up. You can't make this stuff up. Right. I think that at the end of it, I don't think silencing Joe Rogan is the answer. I don't think pulling his podcast is the answer. Why? Because, through it all, for instance, for me, I'm a big UFC guy. Francis Ngannou, who a lot of people don't understand, he was able to get his story out like nobody else have. You know what I'm saying? Hearing about this black man for Cameroon who had to climb through deserts and hills and mountains to just get to another part of Europe, and to work in coal mines and work these odd, hard jobs just to achieve his goal. Like, his story was amazing. And don't get me wrong, I think Joe Rogan does great, but I think the ultimate thing is we have to hold people accountable and make them learn from their mistakes. Why? Because could Joe Rogan be racist? Absolutely. But I think
he is
that
racist. Just say it. He's racist. Joe Rogan is racist. Say it. I'll say it with you. Joe Rogan is racist. Go ahead.
But let me.
This is not conjecture. This is fact. This is fact. Because when I said in the beginning, if they were to go back and to my podcast on YouTube, and then they were going to see every single episode or every other episode, I'm using derogatory terms to, referring to white people. What are people going to say about me? There's going to be no debating that, especially because I'm black. So I wouldn't get off, scot-free. If that was me and Spot, they would have canceled me already. Canceled. See, they're still trying to figure out what they want to do with Joe Rogan. So they're just removing episodes, but he's still up there. If it was a black person that was saying, like, what happened to Whoopi Goldberg? All she said was that the Holocaust, in her opinion, was not a discussion about race. They suspended her from The View indefinitely for 1 week or 2 weeks, however long that is. There's no debating that. They didn't say, oh, we're just going to remove the episode. No, they suspended her. Period. Like, let's just get that straight. Okay, because we're two black guys on here talking about it. You might like UFC and those other types of stuff, but this man is racist. Period. I could be around. The thing is, I could be around a whole bunch of Middle Eastern people, Chinese people, or Asian people, and then I could have like negative feelings towards them, but they won't know unless I come out and say it. I feel like anybody who doesn't see things that way is because they are fans of him, his podcast, or things that he did for people that you admire. So you just mentioned Francis Ngannou and other guys that are from the UFC, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, the final judgment that you make is really clouded on, I don't want to say rapport, but some sort of familiarity associated with Joe Rogan, because, and obviously, to you and other people, because I've heard another guy say, oh, I like his podcast. It's one of my go-to podcasts, so I don't think he's racist. Why you're saying that? Because you're a fan. You're a fan. It's easier for me to just accept the truth because I'm not a fan of this guy. Like, again, I only know him for the Kanye West episode that I watched 2 minutes of.
Right.
But we have to accept the controversy of it all. And the controversy is rooted in fact. We're not talking about he said, she said. We heard it from this guy's mouth. We have to accept the fact that there are people, particularly public figures that we know, that feel, some type of way about black people. They have hatred towards black people. They feel that they're still superior towards black people. This man said black people have a different brain. What does that mean? What does that mean?
I agree.
We don't have these issues with these people, and racial issues amongst this world because we all think that because we're all humans and we're all the same. No, it's because they clearly view us different. This man said black people have a different brain. What is that? Oh, we're only good to have the body, but not the mind of a black person. Oh, so it's got to be the black body and the white mind. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
No, rhetoric, man. Racist rhetoric. Unsubbed from the Racist Rogan Podcast. I'm telling you.
The only reason why I said I don't disagree with you. I don't. The only reason why I said I don't know for sure is one, because I don't know him personally. You know what I'm saying? And two, it's like this, for instance, when I was growing up in the projects, right? There used to be white kids who used to say the N-word all the time with their friends, and they let them say it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They encouraged it. So, if they leave that area, right, and then they go to a different area and they start saying the N-word again, people gonna be looking like, yo, bro, you mad racist. But then again, there was black people at one point that let him say it, and he got used to saying it. So
because those black people are too stupid to realize that person was racist. If you're a white person and you're my friend, and I do have, maybe like 1 to 3, white acquaintances or people that I'm acquainted with, if they have any sort of respect for me, they're not going to use that word because they went to school. You learn, you know what I'm saying, about the, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We all know about that era. So, and we know the history of where that word comes from. We're talking about, I don't even care. As far as I'm concerned, a non-black person, using that word, even if it's GA, is still, to me, it's still GR coming from you. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I don't disagree with that. And that's why I'm saying silencing him isn't a thing. It's educating him and let him know. Yo,
he went to school. He went to school. He studied the same things that we studied. Granted, obviously, we had the same type of education. So he's educated already and still decided to use that word anyway. So what does that tell you about him?
No,
it's not a matter of education because he has access to the same information that we have access, especially in this era on the internet. All you have to do is saying the N-word bad. I bet she's going to tell you, yeah, why? Because it's derogatory, particularly when it comes out of the mouth of non-black people. We're the ones that turn that word into something, different. And because these people, they hear it in popular songs and certain movies and all of that, they're like, dang, I want to say it too. And then they get mad because they can't. If you've ever seen a TV show called The Good Fight, and I post it on my Instagram story all the time, this guy says in the show, he says, rappers saying N-word this and N-word that, but a Caucasian can't. And then Delroy Lindo's character says, so say it. And he's like, oh, I'm not saying I want to say. He says, say the word you want to say. Say the word you want to say. Samuel Jackson went through the same thing. When he was promoting Django Unchained, the interviewers are like, oh, the N-word, and then Sam Jackson was like, nice, saying, what N-word are you referring to? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo.
Right. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that he's not educated. What I'm saying is, you get to a point like the difference.
He is educated. That was my point. He is educated.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Still decided if you know better and you still do BS, then that is a choice at that point. If he didn't know any better, he was like, oh, I didn't know. Like I didn't know. That's one thing. But the way he's using it, like I don't think I've ever said that word that many times in my entire life. He's used that word more than me.
Right. Oh, like I said, I don't disagree with you. And what I meant by educating him wasn't more so like actually educating him, but it's the fact that it's a difference between him and a guy from a guy nobody knows from Texas, right? When you become comfortable, when you become rich, when you become famous, and people let you get away with stuff like this, because let's be real, he ain't the only one saying this, especially a white guy in the entertainment. He's not the only one saying it, but he does say it publicly, right?
Exactly.
But the thing is, for me, this is why I'm saying hold accountability, because how many guests has he said the N-word to throughout the entirety of his podcast? And
how many of those
has
guys
said
are black? Is my thing, because from what I saw, he said these things in front of other white people. He didn't say it in front of another black guy, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, like he said it, like I said, well over 50 times. And I mean, you could see it in videos and his actual podcast episodes, audio only. Mm-hmm. Nobody has said anything up until this point, and I'm glad people are saying it now. But when you let somebody get so used to saying that word, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I talk to people all the time. And I remember when we was on the Jubilee video that I recently did, we was talking about the N-word. And when you think about the LGBTQ, right? You can't say, excuse the language. You can't say faggot anymore, right? Because if you do, you're going to get called out. You're going to get slammed and you're going to get banned. They take control of that word. And that's what I mean. We have to take control of the N-word. We can't just be...
We have control of the N-word. The only issue is that when other people want so bad to use the word, and guys like him, will take matters into their own hands, because in the TV show that the white guy doesn't say it. You know what I'm saying? But let's say if we put Joe Rogan in it, he would have just said it, 100 million times. So he got the reverse, of the moral of that particular scene.
Oh,
I bet you his parents are using that word. I bet you Joe Rogan's parents are using that. Yeah, right. I bet you they're saying it all the time.
Right, but that's what I mean. This should have been addressed the first time he even said it, because a lot of these episodes, I mean, he's been having millions of followers for years now. It's not a recent thing he became popular. So this should have been addressed from the get-go is what I mean. Like, it shouldn't have taken over this amount of times of him saying it for people to actually say something. And even then, this is what I mean, take control. because most of the people that speak out about it, and thank you for doing that, I appreciate it, are white people, right? I think there's only been one black woman rapper who came out and pulled her music too recently. But I haven't seen a peep. All these black guests he's had on a show, all the black people that listen to his podcast or, thinking about being a guest on his podcast, haven't said anything.
That's but I told you why. It's because they like him. They like him. If you've been friends with somebody for a long time, or if this person is your favorite podcast, of course, you're going to try to find excuses for whatever it is that they did wrong or for their behavior. You're going to try to make an excuse. You're going to be, some sort of an apologist and an enabler at the same time. That's precisely why. If there's a black person, which I've seen already, that says he's not racist, why? Is because they like him. They think he's a nice guy.
Well, and that's what I mean. This should have been cut off at the end. And this is why I say you got to hold them accountable, but we also have to take back the word, because just because you're a fan of somebody, again, this is why I was talking about, white kids or other, people of different races getting comfortable saying the N-word around other black people because they let them say it. Again, he's another one. People allowed him to say it for many years, and he's gotten away with it. People hasn't complained to say anything. And this is why it's like, don't get me, like I said, I thank God that people, especially minority celebrities, are coming out and actually speaking out about it. But we need more minorities to talk about it, because if only white people are the only ones complaining about it, it's not going to really change anything. Why? Because the CEO, Joe Rogan, other people who might do podcasts say the N-word or say the N-word out in public, they can be like, oh, well, black people don't complain about it, so why I got to stop saying it? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. We have to take control of the word. You know what I'm saying? Because
here's what I mean. I see. In a perfect world, it would work like that. Okay, they've been using this word for hundreds of years. Referring to us. The thing is, it's a slur that was created by them. So it's like we can't really take control of a white created slur in a white country. Okay, like that's just not not going to happen. The only reason why we have some sort of perceived control of it is because in this integration era, okay, it's not okay to say it. Like now, it's like it was their thing before, obviously segregation, all those other types of stuff. But now it's not okay because we're all, mixed in together. So we can't, there is really no taking control of it. The only thing is, like I said, they know, because you know why? They don't want to, they know if they say it out in public, then they're going to be the cat's out of the bag. That's the only reason why they don't really want to say it in public without permission, because they don't want to be seen as what they truly are, which is racist. If you are not racist, you don't want to use that word. It's like, why would I want to use that word? So it really is no having to take control of the word in the presence of people who are apparently not racist. Because if you're not racist, you're not going to want to use that word. Why would I want to call you something that I know is that could possibly hurt your feelings and like offset your vibration? You know what I'm saying? That's like, why would I want to do that? So any other white, there's no excuse. There is no excuse.
I agree. I agree. And,
Facts.
100%. And like I said, everything I'm saying is not because I'm disagreeing with you. It's just it's a compiled thing that's been happening, right? It's like, for me, all I'm saying is more minority celebrities have to speak out about stuff like this, right?
They don't care because they really, unless, and mind you, we're living in a time now where people don't want to talk about the sensitive things anymore, possibly because they can't, because they know that the luxuries and things that they have been afforded throughout their career can be taken away from them at any given time. You see what I'm saying? Damn, I lost my train of thought. But they can't. So there is no expecting, the Migos and these, because they don't care. Like, these are people that when their own people get shot and killed, they don't speak up about it. And then if they do, it's just for a social media pat on the back. Things are not, the only way, if what you're saying could actually come to pass, is if we were all on one accord in terms of opinion, and we're not on anything. Black people don't stand socially, economically, politically, culturally on one united front at all. We are the most bottom of the barrel people on this earth because we are so divided. And another thing, because this happened maybe like a week ago, and this goes to show that Joe Rogan is definitely racist because he was like, black people shouldn't call themselves black unless they're like the darkest of the dark in skin color.
What?
And he said that. Yo, he said that. He said that like last week, bro. Last week. And then my thing is, it's like, who? Because I consider myself to be black. I am of Haitian, culture, you know what I'm saying? And my people from that country, subscribe linguistically to the language of Creole. But I identify myself as Black African. You see what I'm saying? I'm Black, I'm African. Either or. You know what I'm saying? In fact, Africa, I question if, the person that named the continent of Africa was even Black. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Tens of thousands of years ago, they were not referring to those lands as Africa. A white person called that Africa. But I know we were referring to ourselves as Black before. Who is he to speak on Black people and Black issues? That's not his conversation to have. But yet he felt so comfortable to have it. So he deserves every little bit of backlash that he's getting right now, because that pissed me off. I was like, who is he? I'm not telling you guys how to refer to yourselves. So who are you to come out and say that, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, he was like, if you're not the blackest of the black, then you shouldn't call yourselves Black. So what am I going to call myself then? What am I going to call myself then? Because there are Middle Eastern people that have super dark skin too, but they don't call themselves Black.
Right.
So he deserves it. He deserves it. That man is racist. He is racist. If you knew him personally, you probably wouldn't even like him, because I bet you he probably says wild shit that even you, at some point, you'd be like, all right, I can't even be around this guy. He strikes me as that type of guy. None of this surprises me at all. This is not a post-racial society. I've been saying this for like 2 weeks now, and people need to really get this through their heads. Just because you are integrated into a society that you were not wanted in, just because you are integrated into society that you are not wanted in, does not mean that their opinions of you has changed. Frankly, I feel embarrassed for white people who are not racist. I'm embarrassed on their behalf. I feel like I pity them, because it's like, damn, like, yo, like this guy really, because I'm not even gonna lie, it makes my antennas go up. I'm like, yo, I wonder how many of the rest of them feel like that. I just don't know, because unless you go to sleep with somebody every night or you with them 24/7, you don't know how they really feel. Unless you could read somebody's mind, you don't know how they feel. I really feel bad, but this guy is racist.
Right.
All the listeners, everybody listening, I don't care if it's Joe Rogan Podcast is your favorite podcast. Just take it in. He's racist.
Joe Rogan is definitely having an experience right now, and
racist.
But you know what, man? And this is
Hats
what
out
I mean.
of the bag.
Oh, absolutely. And this is what I mean. The fact that, it can't just be only 3 Black people talking about a Black issue, because at the end of the day, this racial thing is a Black issue, right? And this is what I'm, like you said, and this is, I think, the biggest part is the fact that, like you said, Black people, we're not together. We're not united anymore. A lot of them don't care about social issues. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
This is why people like Joe Rogan, when they start saying stuff like this, they get comfortable and they start getting more crazy with their theories and the conversations. Yeah. Why? Because if you let them just keep rambling on and you don't check them at all, it's like, at the end of the day, I get it. People, like I said, thank you everybody who's been out on the front line, especially celebrities who's risking their own money, who aren't even Black, to speak up about this. But again, this is not up to white people to talk about. This is a Black issue. Why is it only white people talking about it right now? Only 2 Black people I know, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I have to.
What did The Rock say?
So he had came out this before the racial thing came out. And so he was talking about how, how sometimes, you get comfortable on your podcast, you start saying some things, but he didn't think Joe Rogan was a bad guy. I think he was just like, give him a chance, let him improve. You know what I'm saying? And then
what? Yo, we're talking about a man who's probably in his 50s. What's to improve? Like, yo, you know why? Because like I said, they are friends. I'm telling you, these people who are friends with Joe Rogan cannot make, or who have subscribed to his podcast, watched it on numerous occasions from start to finish, cannot give you an accurate, honest assessment of this situation because they like the guy. If somebody's my best friend and they commit a crime, don't ask me my opinion, because I'm going to be like, yo, I mean, that's still my bro. I mean, depending on what he did. but I'm not the guy to interview talking about that, because of course I'm not going to disparage him. These people, don't ask them, like ask somebody else. Ask Cornell West or something. Ask somebody like that. But don't ask The Rock, who the same person that's cutting The Rock checks is the same person that's cutting Joe Rogan's checks.
Oh, no. But no, the point I was making, this was before the whole racial thing started. But when it started coming out about, let me get her name right. India Airy. She's the artist that started pulling her music, and she's the one that resurfaced a lot of the clips of him saying the N-word. Now, when this started coming out, people was like, yo, Dwayne, you support this guy? You selling out as a community? They didn't say selling out, but that was what they was hitting at. Then he backtracked. I was like, I wasn't aware of what was happening. I don't support this, and thank you for letting me know so I can improve my education of myself. So I think when certain people, when they started hearing about all this stuff coming out, they started speaking up about it. But again, it's only been Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who really didn't say much. But India Airy is the only minority artist, celebrity I've heard of who's a minority, who said anything, pulled music, demanded change, anything. And this is what I mean. I get, like I said, it's great that we have other ethnicities, especially white people, talking about it. But if you sit back and you say, okay, I'm saying all this stuff about black people, there's only white people complaining. This is my people.
Leftist, Democrat, left, white people are talking about it. And they're not talking about it for the same reason that I'm talking about it. These people are talking about it because they already had a problem with him having such a big platform and talking about what they believe to be COVID misinformation. So they just want to get rid of him. So if this is the way that they can get him canceled, they're going to get him canceled. But I don't believe that any of these people that are talking about it for the same reasons that I am talking about it. And the only way there's only one way to talk about this, from the aspect of a black person. Okay, anybody else, you're not talking about it from the same reason. Yeah, they might not agree, but I've already been seeing people complaining about him anyway for saying that ivermectin is a proper, a means of COVID prevention or curing or whatever, treatment for COVID. So they are talking about it for two different reasons. So to me, them talking about it is not even worth no. It's a black, like you said, it's a black discussion. These people talking about it, they're not talking about it for the same reason that I'm talking about.
All right. And that's exactly my point. The fact that we don't have any black people talking about it. And this is why I'm saying, like, when Joe Rogan keeps using this rhetoric and other, people who aren't black keep using this rhetoric, they sit back and it's like, yo, they're not saying nothing about it. Why should I stop? Why should I care? And that's what I mean. Like, we had to reclaim and we had to talk about it. And I get it. You get to a certain point in your career, you don't want to, pull strings and stuff. But I really don't think that you speaking out against him using the N-word on a podcast is going to stop your music streams or your acting career. You know what I'm saying?
Let me tell you something. 2 words. Ready? Care and cahoots. One, it's either 2 things. They don't care or they're in cahoots, meaning they could, like I said, be friends with him, the same bosses, social circles, whatever, because we're on the outside looking in. So we don't really know how the entertainment industry really works on like a social level until you actually get into it. But I can only surmise that it's only those 2 things. And generally, when you're making 6 figures every day for sneezing, when you're making millions of dollars for club appearances and movies and tours, all this other types of stuff, it's hard for you to really care about what's going on outside your bubble if it don't affect you. And this is how black people feel on a grand scale. If it doesn't affect their day-to-day at like in any way, shape, or form, as far as they're concerned, they don't care. They don't care to think about it. They don't care to talk about it. They don't even care to know about it. Like literally, Tommy Lee Jones says in Men in Black, he says the only way that people could go on with their happy lives is if they do not know about it. That's a fact. These people, They don't care. They don't care or they're in cahoots. Kanye West is the same guy that was like, oh, Bush don't care about black people. You think he's going to speak up and talk about Joe Rogan? You know why? Because that's his boy. That's his boy. When Kanye was probably going through it, Joe Rogan was like, oh, come over to the mansion, man. Come over to the mansion. And then after he's like, oh, this nigga's coming over. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's just what it is. So honestly, this is really as much a critique on black people as much as it is on Joe Rogan.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we can stop saying it, as I've seen a lot of people say. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, and I'll say it again, because this is facts, there is no taking control of a white derogatory term against black people in a white country that has shown for the last decade, really hundreds of years, but I'm going to stay relevant, the last 10 years, that they don't want us here. Clearly, they don't. They don't. People are so mad about this, right? But then yet, I still don't see people caping for black legislation on our behalf.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, like let me not get a headache right now, yo, because I'm getting pissed off. I'm really getting pissed off because I get it. Like this is a problem, but I already knew a lot of these people felt like that behind closed doors anyway. He's just the one that got caught. If we're gonna be caping for something every day, we need to be caping for that. But guess what? We can't, because the people that black people voted into office right now is the same guy that told you you're not black if you don't vote for him. The same guy that said the N-word over and over and over again was the same guy that says you are not black if you are not the darkest shade of black. If you don't look the part, if you're not pitch black in skin, you can't call yourself black. What is that? Like this is a lot of these people with the power and influence and the resources and all of that, they feel this way. They feel this way. So we're trapped. Like literally, we're trapped. Facts.